So everyone's getting pretty excited about ChatGPT. At least I am. And don't worry, if you're not getting excited by it, we'll be back with some more electronics videos shortly. One of the issues with ChatGPT at the moment is that there's no API for it. This makes it really hard to make your own chatbot on top of it. However, the makers of ChatGPT, OpenAI, do have APIs for the technologies that underlie ChatGPT, and it's surprisingly easy to build on them and get something that's pretty close to the functionality of ChatGPT. The first thing you'll need to do is create an account at beta.openai.com. So I've logged into my OpenAI account and we need to create an API key. To do this, we just click on our little picture and we go to View API Keys and then we click Create New Secret Key. Now, before you all jump into the comments, don't worry, I'm going to revoke this key before I publish this video so it stays secret. We need to copy this key somewhere safe so we don't lose it, because you can't access it after you close this window. So we just click the copy and then paste it somewhere safe. With our API key created, we can now make our bot. Now, OpenAI have a whole bunch of examples that you can build your bot off, but we're going to jump straight to the playground and build it from scratch. We've got a bunch of parameters on this side of the screen. The first one is the model. Now, Text DaVinci 03 is the most capable model, so we're going to use this for our chatbot. But you can switch to simpler models, but they may not be as effective. The next things we can do are change the temperature. This controls the randomness. I'm going to move it down to 0.5, as this will give our bot slightly more repeatable results. The maximum length is an interesting one. This controls how much of a response you get from the bot. There is a trade-off here, because the size of this limits how much you can put into the prompt. If we have a longer response, we have a shorter prompt. But I'm going to set this reasonably high so our bot can be quite chatty. We're going to leave the stop sequence empty and we'll leave top P as 1. The frequency penalty and the presence penalty, you can try tweaking these to see what you get. It's interesting to play around with these to see what the actual bot responds with. For the start text and restart text, we'll leave that off, but we will turn on show probabilities so we can see what the bot is trying to do. So the only thing we need to do now is actually create the prompt that will make our thing behave like a chatbot. So I thought it might be fun to try and create a bot that will help us make cocktails. So I've generated some prompt. Let's have a look what we've got. So these 3 lines tell it that it's an expert in alcoholic beverages. It knows all about cocktails, wines, spirits and beers, and it can provide advice on drink menus, cocktail ingredients, how to make cocktails, and anything else related to alcoholic drinks. So it should be quite a helpful cocktail bot. Now, the next line we add is going to try and keep our bot focused on just answering questions about drinks. We're not trying to build a generic chatbot. So we're basically telling it, if it doesn't know the answer to a question, just say, I'm just a simple barman, I can't help with that. Now, this next line I added after a bit of experimentation. I found that occasionally my bot would put URLs in, or it would refer to blog posts that it just made up. So this tries to keep it just using knowledge it knows itself. And then finally, we're going to be getting a list of cocktails from this bot, so it'd be nice if they were formatted nicely on individual lines with a dash and a space in front of them. So let's give our bot a bit of a spin. We prompt it with questions by prefixing them with human. So let's say, what are some cocktails I can make at home easily? And then to get a response from our bot, we just give it the prompt AI:. So let's submit this and see what our bot says. So there we go. Here's a list of easy cocktails we can make at home. So let's try a follow-up question and see if our bot maintains some context. So let's try asking, what are the ingredients for the cocktails? And once again, we'll leave it with the AI: so it knows where to put its answer. So there we go. We can see that it's using context from its previous answer in the next answer. So a gin and tonic, evidently tonic water, lime juice and gin. So that's pretty good. Let's check that it stays on message and doesn't try and answer questions that it shouldn't be able to. So we'll ask it a question that should be out of scope of its knowledge. And there we go. We get the correct answer. It's just a simple barman, it can't help us fix our car. So let's delete all our questions so we're just left with the prompt. Now what's really nice is we can click this View Code button and it tells us exactly how to call it. We can ask for Python code, we can ask for Node.js code, we can even ask for command line code using curl, so that's pretty good. But I've created a nice skeleton project that we can just copy and paste our prompt into. So let's do that next, and we'll create a command line app that acts as a chat box that will help you make fantastic cocktails. So I've cloned the skeleton project from GitHub. And let's go through the README so we get everything set up. The first thing to do is to check we've got Python installed. So run Python 3 version, and we can see we have Python 3.10.8. So that's great. Now we need to create a virtual environment to install the dependencies. This is quite an important part of using Python. You want to keep your dependencies local to your project and not contaminate your entire system with them. So the first thing we'll do is create a virtual environment. And then we'll activate it. And then we'll install the requirements. Now, there's not many requirements. This is a pretty simple project. We have the OpenAI library, so we can call the OpenAI API. We're using .env to load settings from a .env file, and I'm using some colouring on the terminal so I can colour the questions and the answers so we can read them easily. So let's go back to the README and see what we do next. So we need to copy the env.sample to .env. So let's do that quickly. And then we replace your API key with the API key you created earlier. So I pasted that somewhere safe, let me copy it out and paste it in. So that's our .env file created. Back in the README, we now edit main.py and replace the put the prompt here with our prompt. So we go to main.py and we'll change this to our prompt. So we go back to the OpenAI playground, copy the prompt and paste it in. So now we've done that, there's a few constants here. So we have the answer sequence, which is AI colon, this prompts the bot to respond, and we have the question sequence, human colon, which is how the bot knows our questions. Then we have some constants for the temperature, the max tokens, the frequency penalty, and the presence penalty. Now, this is quite an interesting constant. We need to provide the bot context so it knows what we've been talking about, but there's a limit on how many tokens the bot can produce, and how many it can receive. So if we look here, the maximum length is 4,000 tokens, and this is shared between the prompt and the completion. So if we have a 500 token completion, we've only got 3,500 tokens for the prompt. So we need to limit how much data we send up in the prompt. So I'm limiting how much data by saying we'll only send up the previous 10 questions and answers in our prompt to the bot. This will give it some context, but it won't give us context from right to the beginning of the conversation. I'm assuming that if you've been chatting for a very long time, the subject will have changed by the time you're asking new questions. So let's scroll down and have a look at the main code and see what actually happens. It is actually really simple, so don't get worried. All we have is a thing that keeps track of the previous questions and answers. That's how we build our context. We then prompt the user for a question, and then we call the getModeration function. If there are moderation errors, then we say to the user, your question didn't pass the moderation check, and they should probably go and recheck what they've written to make sure it's not horrible or nasty. Now we can build the context so we know that the chat is getting the previous questions and answers. So all I'm doing is taking the last max context questions and reconstructing a human AI response. And then we add in the new question, and then we ask for the response from the chatbot. Once we've got the response, we just append the new question and answer to our previous questions and answers, so it will be in the context for next time. So getResponse is really simple. It's exactly the same as the code that the OpenAI gave us for calling its API. The getModeration is also very simple. We just pass in the question, and it will return us a set of categories that it thinks the question has failed on. It could be hate, or hate and threatening, self-harm, sexual, sexual with minors, violence, or violence, graphic violence. So that lets you check that your users aren't trying to make the bot do something horrible. So that's pretty much it for the code. It is really simple. There's not many lines, there's only 121 lines of code. And most of that is boilerplate code that OpenAI gave us. So let's try our chatbot out and see if it works. So we just do python main.py. So how about cocktails for a fancy champagne bar? So there we go, we've got a list of cocktails that we could serve at our champagne bar. Let's ask it for the ingredients. And there we go as well. So it's using the context from our previous question and answer in the new answer, and it's telling us what we should put in our cocktails. So that's pretty cool, it's working really well. And it can answer new questions, so I'm pretty happy with that. Let's check the moderation. Now, it's pretty horrible testing moderation because you have to type things that you really don't like. I'm going to blur out what I'm typing, but I'm sure you can use your own imagination for how to test moderation. So there we go. Our question didn't pass the moderation text. So that's really great. It blocks anything that would be really horrible and stop our chatbot from producing things that you wouldn't like. So that's it really. It is that easy. There's nothing to it. So you can clone the GitHub repo and build your own chatbot. It's great fun and it's really entertaining to see what's possible and really push the limits of what you can do. So thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next video.